Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back, episode 224. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find this podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. Thanks so much for joining us on our YouTube channel. You can find these videos after we record them over there on YouTube. Just search Good Guys Talk Back. Obviously, the audio everywhere. Sox 29-38, 4.5 games back in this very forgiving AL Central. We're going to chop up the week that was here. Yankees, Marlins with my very good friend, lifelong Chicago White Sox fan, co-host Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Nick, I've got to tell you, this has got to be the best I've ever seen you look for one of our shows. For those that are watching this on YouTube, and we'll see the clips later on Twitter that you always put out, you do a fantastic job. You look wonderful and splendid, and not too many people can pull off a Hawaiian shirt like you, my friend. You look great. Good for you. Have you taken it off since you got it the other day? By the way.
So comfortable. You won't want to. Once you put this shirt on, it's silky to the touch. It's one of those form fitting. If it's like
great
a cool, very. You'll love it.
That's what everybody loves seeing the shirt fit Pat's form. Let's sit more of that.
It shows every curve.
Oh, lovely.
It's delicious. Absolutely delicious to the eye.
Mm-hmm.
If you had an opportunity to get yourself a Hawaiian shirt, I think you'll agree that it's one of the best Hawaiian shirt giveaways that they've had. I think this is maybe their 5th year doing this, and very comfortable shirt. It actually looks like a Hawaiian shirt. You know, I love a good Hawaiian shirt, Pat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So this was a perfect day for it. Steaming hot on Saturday. And what a finish, which I'm sure we'll talk about in this series and beyond. But yeah, this was a good giveaway. If they could have just pulled the game off, it would have been a great day.
Well, I'm happy for you. Looked like you had a lot of fun. You and the family out there. I saw you put something on Facebook. You're just going wild, turning around in circles.
Yeah,
so that was neat. Tell me about that. How did that happen?
They've got one of the. Well, you and I are we shouldn't even be talking about something like this. But these 360 cameras, have you seen these things where you get on a pedestal and it's rotating and you're back to back with people, and you got to look at the camera that's roaming around you.
I've got one in my bedroom. Yep.
Every morning when you get dressed, just to make sure everything's all typed in and it's good to go. I've never experienced this before. My wife was interested in it. There wasn't a line, which is always a big thing for me. That's great. We'll try this out. And I'm asking, because this is what you do when you're over 40. You're like, how should we respond? How should we interact with this thing that I've never been a part of before?
Mm-hmm.
And the two very younger folks probably were like, oh, this is going to be a real treat here. This is one for the record books. They're like, just go crazy. You have a lot of energy, and that's what I did.
You gave a lot of energy. Check it out on Nick's Facebook page.
Oh, sure.
You didn't put it on Twitter, did you?
No, gotcha.
Check it out on Facebook, because Nick's on every social handle and that you can find. And it's a great production by the Sox team out there, not on the field, but I'm ready to break down the last 6 games. I mean, some definite highs and some low lows. And we find ourselves in a position because of you, as you mentioned, this division being so forgiving, that we can still execute part of my plan, which is to get to 500 by the end of June and see where you're at. I think that's still within reach. It's going to be tough, but your thoughts from the past 6 days, Nick?
So 6-3 in June right now should be probably, better than that. Should have won Saturday, should have won Sunday. No question about it. I'll start with positives. You want to look at starting pitching. I usually go pitching, and this Marlins series between Cease, Kopech, Giolito, I was really impressed. Cease went 6 innings, 1 earned run. Kopech 5 innings, 0 earned runs. Giolito, a gutsy performance on Sunday. And I'll say gutsy because there wasn't a lot of offense. No surprise lately. but there wasn't a lot of offense. And he got himself into some jams. He got out of those jams. The pitch count was rising. I was looking at 5 innings. I'm like, I don't know how much longer he's going to go. And he found kind of another notch. He was able to get 7, only 1 earned run. So you got, for the weekend, this past series, you've got 18 innings logged from our starting pitching and 2 earned runs. So that, to me, is a good sign. Unfortunately, the negative is, they can't get everything. Like, everything can't be put together all at once.
Yeah.
Starting pitching's going, oh, we're going to have a bullpen collapse.
Yeah.
Or the offense just isn't showing up how it should be, with, executing with runners in scoring position, having productive outs, getting on base, taking pitches, walking, all this stuff we've been talking about. But you had offense on Sunday. All of a sudden, it came to life. So the negative is obviously the collapse Saturday and Sunday out of the bullpen.
Yeah, and defense rearing its ugly head. On Saturday, it's Tim Anderson unable to throw home and get the force out at the plate. And I think today, and again, I missed a lot of today's game. I was out at a softball tournament all day, but you get a catcher's interference. I think that's part of your defense, and a big reason why that led to the runs being scored, and then a ball down the line that I heard Ozzie talking about in the post game. That what is McConaughey not doing guarding the line in that situation? So again, defense rearing its ugly head, and it's something that, unless and they did score enough runs today, in my opinion, to win this game, but on a consistent basis, if you're not scoring 4.5 to 6.5 runs a game, you're probably not going to have enough to overcome the defensive, lapses that we have. And it's really, I mean, you can almost count on it. I talked about, and again, I go to my daughter and watching a lot of softball, sometimes kids, especially, you can tell when they're out there and they go, for the love of everything pure in this world, please do not hit the ball at me, because you see it. It's like, I don't want the ball. And I told my daughter this today. I said, when you think that way, that's when the ball finds you. You need to expect it's coming to you and be ready. And I feel like it's that way with Tim Anderson a lot. Unfortunately, it's like he gets in that situation where it's like, oh, please, Lord, please don't hit it to me, because I don't want to be in that situation. He just doesn't rise to the occasion in big moments defensively, and lately offensively either.
Yeah, I'd like to talk later in this episode about leadoff spot with him, and if he should retain that, or what should Grifol do. I've got some thoughts, as I'm sure you do. The Tim Anderson thing, that was the 3rd or 4th, maybe 4th time that has happened in that moment where it is a critical situation, and he needs to just field it and throw home, to get a force. And he's trying to do, one thing before he's done the other thing, which is to field the ball. I mean, he just flat out just biffed on it on Saturday, and he made one on Friday, I believe it was. He made a play, but, he said in his quote post game, it's like, well, and he said the right thing, whether he really means it or not. It's what have you done for me lately? People are going to remember this, and he should be remembering it. And I'm sorry, but Kelly was horrible on Saturday, and he's been horrible in the 9th inning. I mean, his ERA 10 plus. He's an 8th inning guy. There was, Liam Hendricks was not available. I don't think Graveman was available because of the whole, with Graveman, I think it's load management and his priorities on how many days he wants to pitch. And anyway, they went with Kelly. He, for some reason, as we've seen with other pitchers like Craig Kimbrell, just can't figure it out in certain moments. The walks and this, that, and the other, he could not get it done. He's been sharp up until Saturday. It was a complete meltdown. A 1/3 of an inning he pitched, and it was just insane what was happening. And you you're in awe. And you didn't think maybe one run was going to really hold up. It was an Andrew Vaughn solo home run.
Yeah.
But that's just the vibe from Friday was, okay, this might be a pitcher's duel. Miami can pitch. I don't think they scared me too much offensively, unless, you throw them a mistake. They will capitalize on their mistakes that we throw to them. But the TA thing, just really troubling. I don't. My thoughts on him defensively as a shortstop over the years. Again, this is our 5th year doing Good Guys Talk Back, 5th season. And I think from like the first season, I was like, this guy is just throwing error, trying to throw off balance. He can make some athletic plays, but it's the routine plays, the fundamental, like basic routine plays that I think just boggle me how he can mishandle it. And he's just really he's caused a lot of folks to put him under the microscope even more than he already has. And heavy is the head that wears the crown, the label of, as TA goes, the White Sox go. I mean, he's gotten a lot of national attention, and hey, he's got the resume, but I have been very disappointed with what he has done offensively this year. And now just the defense we can't have it. The Sox have got to win on the margins, and that cannot happen from him.
So, that's the bad, right, of the past 6 games. Let's go back a little bit to, the 3 games in New York. And, you go into that series and it's always the New York, the aura of going and playing, even though it's new Yankee Stadium. It's not old Yankee Stadium. It's probably a little bit different of an atmosphere, but it's still the Yankees. Yes, they're minus Aaron Judge, but that's a heck of a ball club regardless. And you go in there and you win 2 out of 3, and quite frankly, had an opportunity still to sweep that 3-game series with that doubleheader after the smoke out. So, that's a positive, and you feel really good coming home for these 3 games. But it can't be removed from the conversation. The Marlins are a good team. The Yankees are a good team. You go 3-3, you're kind of treading water, I guess. We could have had a lot more, but if you're talking about a stretch here in June against really good competition, I guess I'm not like ultimately 100% like elated that they went 3-3 in this 6-game stretch, but I have seen more positives than negatives. And this team has shown me that they do have enough talent to win this division. I still believe that in my heart of hearts. Do you believe that after what you've seen over the last 6 games?
To ask the starting pitching to be able to do what they did, like just for example, this past weekend against Miami, that's unrealistic, right? That's just not going to happen. And that means the offense is going to have to pick it up at times. They're going to be the ones that are just going to have to go on a tear for a while. Like we need a 7 to 10 game tear, if that's possible, where we have multiple guys clicking, multiple guys, not just, hey, we might get a home run from one of these guys, or, a little spurt where we're scored like one inning, a couple runs, and we'll try to hold on to that. Like we need to be kind of a danger for a couple series. I think this team, because of the division, I think this team will continue to, be in the conversation for a division title up until the deadline. I don't see the White Sox as buyers, because if you are, to me, again, if you are going to buy, okay, then you should be buying to make it to the World Series. You should buy to win an American League pennant. You shouldn't need to buy to win this AL Central, to say I'm on top of this mediocre mountain. You've got enough, unless there's major injuries, where you're like, okay, we've got to figure out something here. How are we going to fill this arm? Which they're already trying to figure out with Lance Lynn in my mind. But if Eloy keeps getting hurt, which the track record says that he should, like, are they going to find another bat? But still, even then, I think what you have right now, what you had on Sunday, I think is enough to win this division. And if they don't, it's because they're just not performing. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're underprepared. Grifol is still trying to figure out his bullpen management, and it's something that, again, the lineup construction, and I don't want to get too much into the lineup construction. But if he can stand up in TA's face and say, you're not a leadoff hitter anymore. We have got to win. We've got to win now. We don't have time for you to figure it out. That was April, May. I know you were hurt for a little while, but I did this with Luis Robert Jr. He got dropped. I have to drop you. The problem is there aren't a lot of guys that have on-base percentage. There are not a lot of guys that have the leadoff hitter type mentality. So long story short on all of that, okay, you came 3-3 out of those two series. And that's the way the division is. The division is forgiving, and you'll feel like the White Sox are back, and we should be talking about them. But man, LA and Seattle, and then Texas. Wow.
Yeah.
Those are going to be some prove it series.
So before we get into the future, I want to go back to what lineup construction is interesting for me, in terms of a topic to talk about. Benintendi, for the first time in a while, wasn't hitting second today. He was down, sixth, I believe, in the order. Maybe still a little bit too high for a guy that still hasn't hit a home run this season. A guy that hits a lot of singles, does get on base. I'm not ultimately upset with Andrew Benintendi's play. Played well enough in left field, which the bar is really low in terms of what we've seen out of left field over the past several years. But I was expecting a little bit more for the $75 million in terms of a little bit of power. And then you mentioned it, Tim Anderson is still seeking his first home run, I believe, as well. And it's not all about home runs. But it looks to me like both of them are just content with slapping the ball the other direction without a lot of power. Now, at some point, don't you have to try and get the head of the bat out and drive a ball once in a while? Isn't that something you should look to do a little bit, or is it all about just taking what the pitcher gives them at all times?
I think I'm surprised that accidentally Benintendi hasn't just hit one square with his swing and he's put one out at guaranteed rate field.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Tim Anderson. I mean, he was for a while, for a short period of time, he was driving the ball in the alleys. Not a huge sample size, but you'd think, and it just could be a mentality, it could be an approach, it could be a swing. Something is with him where that's not his game. It's not his game. And offensively, the rolling, the ground balls, and if you're not able to get on base with how you're doing things with the bat, how you want to hit the ball, and you're not taking pitches and you're not walking, you just can't. Like Liam Hendriks said when he came back, which I thought was a great line. I shouldn't be handed the ninth inning. I've got to earn it. And I will earn it, and I will get it back, and I will perform at that level. That's what, I think that's the message for Tim Anderson almost, is just because you've had this role for the last few years and you've performed and you made the All-Star game and you've won some batting titles. I'm sorry. We're in a situation here where we're, 29-38. Okay. Let's not even talk about if the Sox are back or not. I don't care how many they're back in the AL Central. Not until they're 500. Okay. Yep. Look, we got to drop you, man. We got to shake things up. We got to figure something else out. We got to shock the system because the whole line. I think I said it here on Good Guys or on Locked On. One of the best lines of Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, which came out, I think 39 years ago, a couple days ago was the anniversary. At the beginning of the movie, Bill Murray is trying to talk to that ghost in the library. He's like, "Where are you from? Do you come here often?" No response from the ghost. He goes back to Dan Aykroyd and he's like, "The usual stuff isn't working." And it's such a great dry line. And that's what I would say with the Sox teams, like the usual stuff that we're accustomed to is not working. So Grifol, you got to shock things.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he would do to change it up, because you mentioned it before. There's not really a guy that you would say this makes a lot of sense, even to like challenge TA and say, this guy's really coming up and getting on base a lot. This kind of makes sense and makes it easier. There's not really that natural move that you would make just looking at the lineup the way it's constructed. So do you do something crazy and put, maybe Moncada and Robert 1-2, something like that? I mean, Moncada has, been able to draw walks in the past. He does at least extend counts. He will look at pitches. He's not really driving the ballpark with regularity either. Not that you need that from number one. But he's not a huge base stealing threat, nor would I want him to be given his health. So it'd be interesting to see what he could or should do. And I don't know that it's moving Benintendi up to number one, let him lead off and then go into like a Robert batting second, something like that, and Jake Berger third. I don't know.
Benintendi was first, I believe, in the order when TA was hurt with that knee issue. That might be the best of the worst.
Yeah.
And just try it. We're going to put Benintendi at 1. TA, we think there's just too much pressure on you at 1 right now. You got a lot of stuff going on, and that's just, there's too much light on you. Like,
so you slide him, where would you put him then? You slide him down to like 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere in there.
Yeah, why not? You know, like flip it. You know, maybe he's 8 or 9. Maybe he's second leadoff hitter. You know, I'm talking about a big time shakeup. You know, you got this off day on Monday. You've got, you know, LA for 3 in LA. Then you're in Seattle. West Coast has been just brutal for the White Sox. What do you have to lose? You know, I don't like being so reactionary. And Grifol, to a fault, has stuck with TA, I think, and has kept things probably longer than I would have liked them. He's demonstrated change. He dropped Robert, and that kind of like got Robert a little, you know, spooked almost, you know. And so, look, the worst thing that can happen, but I hope those conversations are at least had. That Grifol is not scared to approach Tim Anderson and say, I know I'm a first-year manager, and this is kind of your team, but I got to do what's best for the club right now. We need to find just something that, some combination that is going to work for us. So listen, I'm going to try some things out just to see how I best can set you up for success, because the top spot isn't working right now.
Yeah. And you also, shifting over to injuries and Eloy, again, you're missing a piece of your lineup, and we're missing a piece of our bullpen now with Liam going on the 15-day IL with I think it was elbow inflammation is what they talked about. So you talk about the bullpen and the way it's looked over the last couple of days with Liam not being available. You're kind of resetting it and putting guys back in spots where they weren't real successful like they were in April. You're taking a guy out of the lineup now because he's, again, injured, not a surprise. And you're shifting things around and trying to piecemeal it together. This offense, Nick, as we saw for that one shining moment, we'll call it the one shining moment, almost like in March Madness, when Moncada and Robert and Eloy all hit a home run in a game together at the same time, which has now happened one time. Now hitting 3 guys hitting home runs in a game isn't like all that easy to do. I understand that, but it just shows
our future core.
It just shows the lack of times it's actually those guys have been playing together. So it would be nice to see that more on a consistent basis, which we were told that would happen this year. But that, again, is reverting back to accustomed levels, I guess you would say, in terms of levels of health. So it'd be nice to get Liam back in the bullpen sooner rather than later. But obviously I'll give him the hugest pass in the world coming back and trying to get his self right, and I'm not surprised he has elbow inflammation. And Eloy, I guess just it's in running the bases. I mean, can he even run?
I thought it was on
bases?
The swing, to be honest with you. Maybe it was base running. It looked like he was grimacing after the swing, and gingerly ran to first, and then jogged to second with the overthrow, and then he was removed.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. But that's the state of White Sox baseball. It's injuries and underperformance and scrapping to try to win a really bad division.
And that's why I don't think I don't think this is a negative take. This is just a realistic take. I don't think you can expect much of anything from Eloy. I really thought this was going to be his year as a DH. He was going to be Mr. Danger in the lineup. And now enough is enough. You've seen enough to put a label on it and say you're injury prone.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry, but whatever you can give us, but I don't think it's somebody to rely on for the future.
No, definitely. Honestly,
I don't think
you can't.
No, I don't think you can. I really don't think you can say, well, you got to keep Eloy around.
He's not a cornerstone piece, going forward. I don't know how long we have with Eloy, but it's not something that you can invest your future in, long term, or say maybe somebody comes along and offers you something for Eloy. It wouldn't, again, moving anybody off of this club really wouldn't bother me all that much. But I'm not in that sell mode situation. I know that you had mentioned earlier that, if you're not buying to win a World Series, then why would you buy anything? And I understand that 100%. I just ultimately don't think there's going to be a lot of big pieces moved for your future before the trade deadline. I just don't see it with this management team. But that's just me.
They're in a tough situation because if you are really serious about not re-signing Giolito, and there's so many reports about that, so many articles that I once again went through this past week on Lockdown from all over the place. It's just the Sox organization, the front office. Even if they turn things around, do not look to Giolito as somebody they're going to re-sign. Can you sell and buy? Can you sell Giolito at the deadline? And it's always difficult to sell off of your active roster like that and in your pitching staff, but there's not a lot of depth at all. We've already got Lance Lynn problems. Can you get a young arm in return that is major league ready, and you're going to put him in the rotation, but would probably drop to your 5? That would probably be detrimental. The way Giolito has been pitching lately.
Yeah.
So if you don't have Giolito on the team, you're probably not going to win the AL Central, but you kind of want to get something for him, but you also want to compete for the AL Central. So how do you go about doing that? That is what's going to cause a lot of headaches if they survive the rest of June and July and hang within 4 or 5 games, I think.
Well, you definitely can't serve two masters, Nick. I mean, they're going to eventually, I guess, have to pick a lane and decide which way they want to go. Again, I don't. The trust level, and we've talked about it with this organization, is not there from a upper management standpoint, and ultimately I don't have faith that they'll make the right decision, whatever that is. It probably won't work out for them. But we turn our attention probably towards the future, the immediate future, and what's going to happen over the next, let's call it, we'll just take the smaller sample size over the road trip, right? Just the 6 games. Let's not look ahead too far and look at Texas. You've got a games against some really good competition coming up, as you mentioned, on the West Coast. Dare I say, this next 6 games really could define what lane the Sox go in, right? If it's really bad, it could make your decision really easy. Could you go 500 and again stay where you're at right now and feel really good about that coming home? Yes, I would feel good about them going 3-3 and coming home a lot differently than I felt about them going 3-3 over this past 6-game stretch, when they should have probably went, better than that, at least 1-2 more games.
Yeah, the Dodgers are going to be tough. They really are. Seattle, I think, is around 500 right now, one game under 500, but it's Seattle. It's the West Coast, and they've got some power on their team. I think coming back home, it's like there's no rest, because then it's Texas. It's playing some really good baseball. Really, I mean, they're first place in the West. So I think, you're probably going to stomach 500. A lot easier than you are after what they did recently here against the Marlins. I mean, you had those 2 games. That's unfortunately where, Chuck talked about it in the post game, and we've talked about it. And I know a lot of Sox fans have talked about this. It's that, you win 60, you lose 60, and what you do with the remaining games kind of defines you as a ball club. Hawk used to say it all the time. And I didn't really grasp it for a while as a kid listening, and watching the telecast, but I absolutely do now.
Yeah.
I mean, those are games you have to win. You have to find a way to gut it out and get those wins. It's huge. You win on Sunday, it's a completely different vibe, completely different as you head to LA. You got Lance Lynn, Pat, going to open up on Tuesday against LA. And I'm sorry, but yeah, the easy thing is just to say, well, DFA him, get him off of the ball club. I don't want to see him anymore. He gives me too many Dallas Keuchel vibes. And, he keeps saying he needs to get better. He keeps saying, he talks a big game. I've been in these ruts before. I bounce back. I'll be fine. What he did against the Angels and then what he did against the Yankees, and the offense bailed him out against the Yankees, but boy, he got demolished against the Angels. They're not competitive pitches.
Yeah.
He is not throwing competitive pitches, especially when he has an 0-2 count. His cutter just is like a cement mixer hanging in their middle. That's going to be how they figure out him, or he figures out, or I don't know which comes first. But the sad thing is, where are those innings going to come from? Now, they might eventually get to the point, the White Sox is like, hey, friend, Jesse Scholtens can do this. What you're giving me right now is nothing. I'm sorry, but we are seriously we are hanging on, trying to win a horrible division, and you are not helping. It's the Seinfeld episode where they're trying to redeem the bottles and cans in Michigan. And Kramer's like, what's going on here? Like, we are lagging. We are lagging here. What's holding us up? They have to just pitch bottles and bags, and then eventually Newman goes. But that's not a weight thing for Lance Lynn. That's just a performance thing, friend. Like, you are gumming everything up here.
Well, just looking at this again in the very, very, very short term here, there's a day off tomorrow, so your bullpen will be rested for Tuesday's game. If in fact you have to use them right out of the chute to help eat up some innings. I don't know what you do with Lance Lynn. I get what you're talking about in terms of it's not the Lance Lynn that we're used to seeing. Ever since he went down with that knee injury last year and came back, he had some moments after he came back, but there was it got off to a really slow start, right? It wasn't the guy that we had acquired. The stuff isn't there. The location certainly isn't there. He's walking a lot more guys than a Lance Lynn that finished 5th in the Cy Young voting a couple of years ago we're used to. So, but I also don't get and maybe it's just because I grew so tired of the Dallas Keuchel, act and all the pomp and circumstance that surrounded him and his deal. But I don't get the let's DFA him like we were calling for with Dallas Keuchel. I don't get that. I don't have that level of desire. Let's just put it that way. I still do have some belief that he may not be the pitcher of old anymore, but I still think he's got enough cunning and guile, and his stuff should be still adequate enough to manage through 5 innings a game. Now, is that, ultimately the way you want out of that spot? No, but I'm not at the point where I would say I want to DFA Lance Lynn. That's one, way too much money to eat up. And 2, I don't know what you're replacing a Lance Lynn with. There's not a whole lot of options, in my opinion, unless you're going to start stretching out like a Ronaldo Lopez or somebody like that to take that spot.
No, I think it's Jesse Scholtens because obviously, Davis Martin is not available. The options are thin. They are absolutely thin. That is a big problem with the Sox organization. One of the things that I think we both and so many other Sox fans wanted to see more of this past off season is get more pitching, not just reclamation projects, but get some pitching, get some serious pitching that you're not just looking to, see if somebody can, have a tryout and just feel good in Cactus League play as a favor or something. Like really invest and bolster some way, somehow. Easier said than done, but this is where we're sitting right now. It's the opponents too. I mean, he's going to face the Dodgers, and June and July is tough. So when his number gets called, he is not necessarily going to be up against the AL Central where he can hide sometimes.
Yeah.
It's the opponents that can be a real problem for him. They'll eat his lunch, and they have recently. So he is a mystery. Elvis Andrus, buddy, he brings nothing. He brings really little to nothing to the table for me right now. But he is probably a better defensive shortstop than Tim Anderson.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, it's a shame because we were excited. I think when we heard Elvis Andrus was well, so I guess I don't think we were excited. We didn't have a second baseman really, so bring back Elvis Andrus, who did provide a big spark for us last year when we had him come over to us and help us out, and it was nice to have him back. And you thought, okay, veteran guy playing out of position, but still a guy that I felt was a reliable presence in the lineup, could, put a charge in once in a while and put one over the fence. I felt really good about that. And as you mentioned, he just really provided nothing. So to take at bats and opportunities away from the young kid is just, uh, it's really unfortunate. And it feels very LaRussa like in the decisions being made in that aspect, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to take really at bats away from Romy Gonzalez. I've liked what I've seen. He's going to have struggles here and there, but I've liked what I've seen, especially defensively from Romy. There's no reason why his bat should be taken out of the lineup, unless it's just for a natural day of rest.
Yeah, he came up big on Sunday with a big hit as the Sox kind of came alive. I think you roll with him. There should not be there shouldn't be a position battle going on between, well, is it going to be Elvis or is it going to be Romy? That should not be happening in season. I'm sorry, he is just not giving you anything offensively, and when the team needs that, they need offense. You got to go with the guy that actually can provide it every now and then. So, Jake Burger, let's move to him. I think he was 1 for 12 this series, 1 for 12 with 6 strikeouts. So rough series for him. But I was happy to see him in the lineup. Is he a guy that you think can have some consistent sustainability, or is he going to have these flashes where like he gets hot for, 2-3 games and then it's like, what happened to you? And that's weird that we're talking about, well, where can we get a consistent Jake Burger? Who thought we were going to be, clamoring for that at the beginning of in 2023? But he's the guy that's been exciting,
Yeah. Well, he's been exciting at home. His road at home splits are almost insane to look at in terms of his productivity. So, yeah, it's a shame that he had a rough series. I still have enough trust in him. I don't think he's the right-handed version of Daniel Polka. I think there's still more there, right? I don't think we're at the point where we're thinking he's not going to go through some struggles. So, yeah, I'm okay with continuing to put him out there. He's going to give you what you lack, and that's power. You need power in this lineup, especially with Eloy being in once in a while and just kind of a part-time player, really. So you need as much power in the lineup as you can. We should be, the stats. I don't have to tell you the stats when this team hits, 2+ home runs a game. I mean, our winning percentage, goes through the roof, really. So, I mean, it seems really simple, hit more home runs and we'll have a better chance of winning. And he's a guy that can do that.
Yeah, I think he has to stay in the lineup. I mean, it was a rough series for him. That's going to happen. But I think that his body of work this season, you've got to play him consistently. You absolutely do. It'll be interesting to see how he performs on the road, though. Gavin Sheets, another guy that, what is he giving it to you offensively? What is he providing, really? I don't know. It seems like a black hole. He can run into one every now and then, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
And there's too many of those guys on this roster that, well, yeah, he can launch one. He can launch one, but that's not enough. We can't have 5 of those guys in the lineup that could maybe launch one at some point. I just need more consistency.
Yeah.
And Gavin's not giving it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gavin Sheets. I'm with you, and I wish he did it. I wish he would do enough to be a guy that we could move and maybe get some pieces to better this ball club, because left-handed power is attractive, but again, it's in a conundrum, Nick, because that's something we lack. So trade away what you perceive to have and hope to build around, but what you're trading away is something that you need. So it's really an odd and poorly constructed team that, you know, is just good enough to be 8 games under 500 to this point. So I don't know. It is a strange thing with Gavin Sheets. I don't even know what you'd get back in return for him, because he's not hitting enough to really warrant to get a lot back. So do you just ride it out and continue to put him out there and start him at DH and right field when the time is right? I guess that's all you can do.
Yeah, and they made that bed and they got to sleep in it. That's how they're off.
Well, they were bullish, as you remember, very bullish,
extremely bullish. You know, they're stubborn. The front office is stubborn. They're hard-headed. I think they are immovable on certain things, and they, I think, put more value in certain players. And a lot of clubs do this. They put a lot of value in their guys, and like, this has got to work. This is one of our guys. We're going to force this issue instead of like cutting bait quickly. I don't know. It's an art. Again, that's a delicate dance. Few do it well, which why they're so coveted. You know, certain general managers and executives of knowing when to move on, getting enough information from trusted sources of, I could see some stuff with this guy, but the long term, I don't think that's a value, you know, and I don't think we should. I don't think we should put a lot of stock in this, you know, moving forward. So, in the West Coast, next time we'll talk, we'll you know, they'll be back home for their Texas series, but we'll have a lot of information. I think we're gonna have a lot of information. You and I were in Dodger Stadium. We attended a game. White Sox weren't playing. It might have been Marlins Dodgers way back when.
It's a long time ago.
This was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. We went with your brother, who was living out in LA at the time. What were your impressions of Dodger Stadium? Were you blown away? We were out in the left field, I believe, like left field.
It was, I mean, Dodger Stadium. I mean, just to say that you went to Dodger Stadium, I think is a cool thing.
Sure.
Right? I think it's like in terms of going to see ballparks. If you do that, I know you go all over the place to see the Sox play. You know, not a flashy, cool, even. I wouldn't say cozy, cozy, you see these old ballparks, and you go to them. It's like, oh, this is a really cozy
nestled into
a downtown area. It was, it's, traffic in LA stinks whenever, it doesn't matter when you go. It felt like to me when you drove into Dodger Stadium to park, it was almost like, I don't know why it reminded me of this. You know how the parking is when you first get into like Six Flags, and it's all those. It felt like I was driving into Six Flags. It was kind of a weird feeling, and then
it's elevated.
It's built right into the ravine, so you enter in and you ground level, but then you can walk down. You're like at the top of the stadium. It's from where we entered. I think we walked all the way down and around, or we walked around the stadium. I know that kind of all over the place, but interesting place. I wouldn't say it was my favorite ballpark in the world to go visit. The Dodger Dog is extremely overrated, but a cool thing to say. Yeah, I went out to Dodger Stadium. Do you remember the celebrity we saw walking out and about? Who do you remember? I can't remember.
I remember who it was, because I saw him, and I remember going out to LA just like, hey, I wonder if we're going to see any celebrities. Of course, the most stereotypical thing you can think of when you're going out to LA. And do you remember it? Because I know
it was the actor from 90210 that played
Ian Ziering.
Steve. Yeah,
Ian Ziering was the only celebrity we saw in our short, maybe 4-day trip or whatever it was.
It was just a pass by. It's like, there's that guy that nobody cares about.
Ian Ziering. He's having a good time, it looks like. Good
the
for
one
him.
Guy that didn't have the cool, like big, like, parted and cool hair. He had the different hair.
That's a stadium that I'd like to go back to go see the Sox play. But if you were going to, look at the schedule and be like, on this road trip, on this West Coast trip, I'm going to go LA or Seattle, I would encourage you to go Seattle. That stadium is really enjoyable. I like that town. I had a blast with those Mariners fans. I was standing out years ago for a Sox Mariners series. There's like a center field kind of open standing bar area, and they were great. I mean, we had a blast with them, and they showed us around town. That was the series where we found out where the Sox were staying, what hotel they were staying, and we went to the lobby. We got the information from some Sox fans that that's their only trip they do. They go to Seattle every single year, and they're like, look, the Sox have been going to this hotel forever. Go there. And sure enough, Robin Ventura was manager at the time. So he's in the lobby bar talking with maybe Mark Parent, who was around, going over some
great
scheming, something.
Yes.
Wimpy, Tom Pachork was on the call that weekend. He was in the lobby bar, got to meet him. I want to say, no, it wasn't Diane Viciedo, but it was some other interesting character. It wasn't Tank, but and then Adam Dunn. And Adam Dunn is a monster of a man. I mean, he was just a mountain of a dude that was hanging around the lobby bar. So, I mean, again, good people watching, but I definitely went up to Robin Ventura, gave him a piece of my mind.
Did you?
No, I introduced myself just like he
just
cared.
put him in a headlock and just say, I remember this move, huh? And punch him in the head.
He's never heard that.
Remember this?
I think I said maybe something like, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be in that situation. You were not cut out to be our manager, but thanks for wearing it for a little while.
Thanks for being the meat shield for us. We appreciate it. Well, it is an interesting last half of this month because, as you mentioned, and we talked about, they're going out west. Then they come home and they go back out west right after that. So it's really strange how this balanced schedule has really worked. It really hasn't felt like it's worked at all in our favor. May was a better month, but this has just been a really weird schedule and just something you have to get used to now with the way it works out with this balance that we have. So
yeah, out west, Angels in Oakland after their home against the Rangers. And
you clamoring to get out to see a game in Oakland before they move to Vegas?
Well, I have
see that stadium. I know you have, but
I won't go back.
No,
and I there's a great guy, Jason Burke, who does Locked On Athletics. Great dude to talk to. Knows a ton about the Athletics. A passionate Athletics fan. So no disrespect to him or any Athletics fans. I didn't think much of the stadium at all.
Yeah,
when I was there, and it was like, there was more going on around me and with other events that were happening in the stands. And like, then there was like a game actually going on. It was a weird experience. So no, I'm not going to be racing back there to say goodbye to that ballpark.
Well, my friend, this was a blast. And I have to say we've got a lot of Sox baseball to look forward to, and I'm excited about that, but I'm more excited to see Flash with you on Friday, and we'll break that down as well on Sunday.
Have you seen the latest previews with Michael Keaton?
No, I haven't. I don't. Oh boy. I want to go in cold almost now because now the reviews are coming out, and I don't know.
Don't pay attention to the reviews because you and I are passionate about the content, and we'll be fine.
Well, it'll be good. All right, I'm excited. You're excited. You look great in a Hawaiian shirt. Why don't you close us out here, Duder?
Always a pleasure, buddy. Folks, thank you so very much tuning in on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe. You can watch old episodes if you're interested in that. The audio available everywhere you find your podcast. Pass it along to other Sox fans on Twitter at GoodGuysTB. We've got a Facebook fan page. Try to do this every Sunday night, 8:30. You can catch us live. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.